Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another video for Journaling on a Budget. And I want to get some lines on my paper before I start decorating and adding pockets and everything. So I'm going to show you how I make a line stamp. I want to make a line stamp. This is just one of the pages out of our journal. And I want to make a line stamp that is big enough to cover a whole section of this page. And so what I'm going to do is I just have a piece of cardboard here. And you want to make sure that your corrugation on the cardboard, that the lines run this way, so that when you press down on it, if you were to put we're going to put string on here to make our lines, and if you were to put your strings this way, eventually it may bump up and down like this, you know, and work into those grooves. So we want our lines of our cardboard to go this way, and then I am just going to just put this is a straight edge because that was cut by the factory, so I'm going to leave that edge there, and I'm just going to line my paper up here, and then I'm just going to mark it. Whoops, I'm just going to put a mark at the top, and I like to make 3 lines, and then I'm going to do it on the side and at the bottom. And that is going to be the size of my stamp. So that way I don't have to worry about, if my stamp is too small, I don't have to worry about trying to line up the lines to cover a whole page. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my ruler and my X-Acto knife. And I'm going to line my ruler up with those lines. And then just cut. It's better to have a sharp knife so you get some nice smooth edges on your cardboard. I'm just going to do the side. I think I'll do the bottom first, and then I'll know where to stop. I'm just going to line that up. Cut that across, and then do the side. And this will give us the perfect size for our page. There we go. So this is going to be the size of our stamp. Now you can go through and you can mark it, and you can mark it like every other corrugation line. You can do it every corrugation line, which would be really close together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one right at the top. There is a corrugation line at the top, and then I'm going to skip one and then make a line, make a mark. And then I know it's hard for you to see because it's hard for me to see, but I am just making a mark at every, and actually if you look at it from the side, you can see right where your bump here is. That is where you're going to want your string, because that's going to hold your string right up at the top of the cardboard, and it's not going to sink in. Oh, and now look what I did. So let's see, I don't want this one, and I don't want this one, and I don't want this one. I wanted to go every other. So let's get rid of those. Skip one, put one there, skip one, and put one there. Skip one and put one here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And then I'm going to make sure that I do the same on the other side. So I'm starting at the top, and then I'm going to skip one and put one right here. And then I'm going to just kind of look just to make sure that yes, those are the same line, because I've done that before where I thought I had it the same, made all my marks, and then when I went to put my string on, it was crooked. Now you could make a crooked stamp. That would actually be kind of cool. Go every other one, and all of your lines would be on an angle. Oh, I might just do one of those. That kind of sounds like that would be fun. Of course, you could just take this one, and when you stamp it, you could stamp it crooked, but it would be easier to line it up with your page. Okay, now I did something wrong. I definitely did something wrong. Let's see, let's go across. That line's right. Oh, right here I skipped that, and I should have made a mark here. So all of these are wrong because I got off by one. But, well, at least now you know that if you do that, you're not the only one. And there we go. And then you can just take your ruler, or you can just eyeball it when you put your glue down. I do like to have a line to follow. To me, it just makes it easier. And this is how far apart the lines are going to be on my pages. And like I said, you could make them half that size and do one at every corrugated line. But I do kind of like the bigger spaces. It's kind of what I've always done. I actually was watching Sonia made some the other day too, and I've always made mine this size, and she made them closer together. And it was like, well, that's actually kind of cool because I didn't have any that were close together. So I made some small ones to use on journaling cards. So after you do this one, if you like the looks of it when you use it, you can make any size that you want to. You can use this for journaling cards, but if you have a smaller one, it's easier to ink it up that way or to paint it up. And my first one of these I made, I don't even know when I made it, a long time ago, and I'm still using it. So they really do last. It's not something that is going to just fall apart on you. It's going to last, so it is worth taking the time to do it. And actually, I do have a few lined clear stamps, but they're nowhere near this big. And I've never seen one this big at this store, although they may have them, but I'm sure that I wouldn't want to pay the price for them if they do. And then you're just going to take your glue, and I do like to start at the very top and the very bottom. If I don't want to have my line that close to the top, you know, I don't have to put ink on that line, but I want it there just in case I want that whole page covered. There we go. I even had my glue upside down and it still didn't want to come out. You just want to stay on your line. As best as you can. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. It's going to be a journal, and it's going to be something that is handmade, so handmade is never perfection. At least I've never had perfection in my handmade items. They always turn out well, but to strive for perfect is something that can very easily just drive you crazy. And then you're just going to take your string and cut a piece that's just a little bit longer. And of course, as always, I've lost my scissors. It's okay. I'll just use my X-Acto knife then. And I make it a little bit longer so that I can hang on to both ends and then just kind of work it in there. Just kind of move it back and forth a little bit. And I don't give it a press till I get all of them on there. I'm going to do these 4, and then I'll press it down because, you know, you're going to get glue all over your fingers, so. Just kind of work it back and forth a little bit. And this is as easy as it is. It's not difficult at all. And the hardest part is you have to wait for it to dry. I think that's the hardest part about the whole thing, although you can hit it with a heat gun after it's dried a little bit to make it move along faster. And there we go. And now I'm just going to hold it down at this end and just kind of pat it down into the glue. Pull it tight and just rub across it. Now I move the one underneath of it. I'm just going to straighten it up. Pat it down into the glue and then just rub across it. And when you're doing that, you're also getting some glue on the top of the string, which just helps to condition the string right from the start. But once you use it, like with acrylic paint, that is definitely going to seal it. And if it gets a little crooked, just straighten it out. And there we go. And then I just kind of spread the glue out between them just to kind of flatten it out. I don't want it sticking up above my string so that it doesn't make marks on my paper. And then it also kind of conditions your cardboard, makes it a little bit waterproof. And the only thing is you don't wash these. It's not that waterproof. So there we go. There's our first 4 lines. I'm going to finish the rest of this, let it dry, and then we're going to line up some paper. I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I am back, and my glue is pretty well dry, and I found my scissors. And so now what I'm going to do, I don't cut these edges off while I'm waiting for my glue to dry, the edges of the string, because I don't want it to lift the edge where it is glued to the edge of the cardboard. So I wait till it's all dry before I trim these off, and then I just go in and just trim along the edge and get those out of the way so that they don't get in the paint or the ink or whatever you're using and make a mess on your paper. So I'm just going to get those out of the way. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our lines to make lines on our paper. And a lot of times I'll use a roller and roll paint on here. I decided I wanted to try something. We're going to try it together. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Before I get my paint out, I am going to put some handles on the back of this to make it easier to pick up. And so I just take some masking tape. And then what I do is I fold it in half, but keep the bottom away from each other. So just fold it in half here, but I'm keeping little wings out here so that I can go ahead and put this on like this. There we go. So put those wings on our, and that gives me a handle to pick it up with. And I'm going to put one on the other end also. I'm just cutting these about 4 inches long or so. And just kind of fold it in half. Stick the middle part together, keeping the bottom parts out of the way. And then just put this down here. There we go. Now that'll make it easier to pick this up instead of trying to like grab it from the edges, because there's not much to grab there. Okay, so for paint, this is what I have. This is a drying mat from the Dollar Tree, and used to dry your dishes on. I just cut it down to just a little bit bigger than my cardboard. I didn't want it too much bigger because I didn't want to waste a bunch of paint. I got this wet, and then I pretty much squeezed it out. Not super tight, but I just squeezed it out so it's still damp. And then I'm going to put my paint on here and try and use this as a paint pad. See how it works. No idea how it's going to work, but we'll see. And I don't know why, but I really want to try and do like brown with blue in the middle. And like I said, I'm not really sure, but this is just, and I keep telling myself, oh, you don't want to do that, but I do. So what the heck, I'm going to try it. I've got a goober in my paint, so I'm going to just pour it a little bit. And I'm hoping by doing this that I will be able to use this while I'm doing all these pages over and over. I'm hoping I won't have to put too much more paint on there. I don't know exactly how it will work, but I'm going to just spread this around, let it soak in. So that it kind of works basically like an ink pad. I don't have enough brown on this end. I think I might put a little more up there to let it sink in. And you don't want to leave those pink goobers in there. Get those out of the way. I'm kind of pressing a little bit to kind of get it pressed into the pad so that it's almost basically dry on top, or it's just not soaked on top. I want it to soak in. And just wipe my brush a little bit and spread out this blue. And to get that goober out of there, come on. And I just set this on some parchment so that it wouldn't get everything all wet. I'm going to put a little bit more blue on here. Probably by the time I get this all done, it's all going to be dried up. We'll see. But I figured, what the heck, I might as well just bring you along and see if it works. Because that's the only way you figure something out. If you get an idea in your head, you just try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, this, I already cut a piece out of this for something else anyway, so it's not like it was great. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to set this aside so that I can bring my pages up here, and I don't want that paint on there because that's going to get on my pages. Alright, I'm going to be back in just one second. I'm going to change this paper because I don't want this paint to get on my pages, and I'm going to wash my hands, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first signature out of my book. I did switch my signatures around. This signature was in the middle, and it had the blue in it, and the one in the back had the blue in it somewhere. And I didn't want them right next to each other. Plus, this one has a really dark coffee dye paper, and so does this one, and this one was light, and this was in the front. So I did dark coffee dye in the front and the back, put the light one in the middle, and then that way the blue is also in the front and in the back. So just me, and just letting you know that's why I switched it. So I'm just going to take out one signature to start. Now the front I want to do something on, so I'm not going to put any lines on the front. So that's going to be the front. And for some reason, I like to have my lines on the right side of my pages. So I am going to put my lines on this page right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this out and know that this is where I want to put my stamp. Now I'm going to ink this up. Put this up here for just this time. So we'll see, just kind of press all over to try and get that paint on all the lines. Let's see if it worked. It looks like it did. Move that out of the way. And I'm going to just hold this down, line this up, and then I'm going to press this And you don't have to press hard, you just want to make sure that your lines come into contact with your paper. And you can do it that way, or you can flip it over and you can also do it this way. But don't press down in between when you do it this way, don't press between the lines, because otherwise anything that's down in here will get on your paper. So there we go. We do have lines on that page. So that's the wrong page. This goes in here. Haha. This goes in here like this. So this was the page that I wanted to put it on. But that's okay, because this will be the right page in the back also. So I'm going to leave that open because that's still wet. Flip this over. This is the page that I should have stamped. I'm going to re-ink this up. And actually, this has those little bits of paint are kind of coming onto our paper, but that's okay. It just gives it another distressed look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and press this all over. And there we go. There's our lines. And I like the blue and brown. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this is page 1. And then this is page 2. Now, sometimes I just kind of set these around to dry. I just kind of set them up like this and put them around my table. You might want to use a pencil and just put on your page, you know, like what page it is. So when you go to put it back together, you know which way it goes. It's pretty dry, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to set it in there like that. Now, the next page in our signature is my book pages. I don't want to put any lines on those. So I do want to put lines on this page here. So I'm definitely not going to put lines on this. So I'm going to move that out of my way. Open this up. Get some more paint on my lined stamp. And then just line it up. And put that down there. And this is just so much easier than trying to draw lines if you want to put lines on, or using little tiny stamps, or having a stamp that you have to line up the lines, because it doesn't matter. If I try and line up 2 line stamps, one is going straight and the other one's like every time. So there we go. There are those lines. Now this is going to be in the book. I am going to want lines on this page. I know this is the right side of the next a couple pages back, so while I've got this out, I am going to put lines on that one too. I'm just going to line that up. And you know, when I started this, I said that I was going to do like pockets and everything first, but then I just kind of realized that I really needed to know what I was going to need. I'm going to just set this right upside down on my pad. So that's why we're doing it in this order instead of the way that I said. Okay, so we've got this page, and then this page. Then we've got our book pages. This one came next, and then in the center was our little heart. And then I've stamped this one, and truthfully, I was going to leave that not stamped, but I've stamped it, so that's the way it is. Just so you know, if you do something like that, things happen, not gonna hurt anything. So now we've got stamps there, and then a book page, and then we've got our lines there, and I do want lines on the back of this page. And that will be the whole first signature will have its lines. I'm just going to take my line page, or my line stamp, line it up, and here we go again. So this doesn't take long at all. And I love the distressed look of these lines. I don't like solid lines for journaling. you know, I can do whatever I want on this page. If I want to put pockets or whatever, this is not super distracting. If I had drawn solid lines on there, it would look funny if I put something on top of it if I decided I didn't want that for a journaling page. So I'm going to put this one right back in here, and now this signature is done. And you know, there might get a few dots of paint on pages that I didn't put lines on. That's okay with me. Now in the center, we don't have any of our blue tissue in here, or our blue, whatever you call that, acetate. So I think what I want to do is maybe put some stamps on here. Just grabbing some stamps really quick, or a stamp. Okay. I have this little corner butterfly stamp, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the blue on my stamp pad. I did get all over the corners. Well, hopefully it won't get all over the place, but I'm going to put this right up here in the corner. Oops. Get it down here where you can see. And there we go. That's cute. So, and then I'm going to, I think, maybe put some more stamps around here too, but I'll need to pull some out. But I wanted to show you when you stamp and want to line at the same time. Let's see, I don't want to put this at the bottom because it would be upside down, so I'm just going to leave that one stamp there. And then I'm just going to take a piece of scrap paper and I'm going to rip it so that it's not a straight line, and I'm going to set that right across to where I stamped. Then I'm going to get my stamp, my line stamp again. And this little stamping pad is working pretty good. I'm just going to line this up. And that's just going to keep the lines off of wherever I stamp. So a lot of times I will stamp top and bottom, or all four corners, or kitty corner, and then I just put a piece of paper everywhere where I have a stamp, and just with a ripped edge on it so it looks different. It doesn't just have that straight line to it. And there we go. And now see how our stamp does not have any lines on it, but our lines just come right out here. And then they stop so we can see our stamped image. Let's see, I want to do the front page on this one. And I think that, no, I want some more stamps on it. So I am going to stop right here, and I think that probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp these pages in different areas and get my lines on them where I want, the next section too, and then I'll come back and we'll just flip through and see how it all looks, because you've got the gist of how it, you know, how it works. And here is our pad, and it's still working really well. And I figured that if it starts to get a little bit dried out, I did grab some water and bring it here to spray on there. But so far, I'm not so sure. I think I'll make it through this whole book without having a problem. Then when I'm done, I can just take this, get a couple scrap papers, and just flip this upside down and just kind of press on it so that this color gets onto those scrap papers so I don't totally waste it. But I'm doing the whole journal striped with this much, and that was not a lot of paint. If I had put that on a brush and painted it on every time, I think I would have used more paint than what I put on here. So the key was getting this wet and squeezing it out first, because that's keeping the paint, it lets it soak in just a little bit, and it might get a little watered down, but that's okay because that gives us more of a distressed look if it does. But it's keeping it wet so that I can continue going on. So okay, I am back. My phone rang, so it was an abrupt interruption, but we were done at that point anyway. So I have finished stamping my book, and now I am just kind of pulling a little bit of this extra off from my pad here. It gives really cool texture. I like the way it looks. And I will set these aside because I may use them in this book, being that these were the colors that I just used in this book. So whenever I have offcuts or anything when I'm working on a book, I just keep them out. I may use them, I may not use them, but I keep them out just in case I need them for something. So I'm just going to keep grabbing this off. And I'm very impressed with how this worked, because I really feel like I did not use that much paint. And I have tried jelly plates before as a kind of as a stamp pad. Kind of works okay, but it dries very quickly. So you have to keep putting paint on it and keep putting paint on it, but it's big enough for big stamps. But yeah, see, isn't that cool? And I mean, even if that's not used for this journal, it could be used, I mean, that would make a nice page. Fold it in half and put into a different journal. Or maybe even this journal, you never know. You can always change your mind and switch things around. I'm going to try and do this one double-sided. Put this on here. And I'm just going to get the other side of this one, and then we're going to call that good. So there we go. All right, I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to set this aside, and we will look at our journal. This is my last one. I was letting it air up a little, or air out a little bit before I put it back in the book. So here we go. This is what we have for today. I left the front page blank because I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet, but I don't think I'd want to start journaling right away on the front. Unless it was going to be like my name or some, like name, address, whatever, name or, what's in your book. But you don't want a full page for that. So I left this one blank. And then I just did the right side of most of the pages. Didn't want to do that one, so I did that one. And then we've got the right side of our heart, which I wasn't going to do but forgot. And so this is what they look like. And then here's the one. Oops. Just pulled that out. Here's one that I put musical notes on. And then I just put a piece of paper there and a piece of paper there before I put my lines on, and they show up really nicely. And there's the one we did with the butterflies. And then I did another one with 2 butterflies at the top. This one I thought was just too dark to put lines on, so I left it. We'll do something else with that page. This one here, my stamp did not come out very well, so I'll have to fix this somehow. I can cover it up if I want to, put a pocket on top, but very possibly I might go in. This is the one that says sometimes you just have to put on your big girl panties and say, bring it. And I love that saying. I think it's funny. So I decided to keep the center blank. And again, I thought this one was just too dark. And then in the back, I just did lines on that one. This one says believe. And just lines on that one. And then for the final signature, again, I didn't do the front of any of the signatures, and this one just has lines in it. And I did not want to put lines behind the paper there. And on this one, I did do the center, and I did do lines on the back of that one, or behind that one. So that is where we are so far. So I think next it's time to maybe start doing some embellishments to put inside there, or some pockets and some tucks and that type of thing. So thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you're enjoying the series. Thanks again, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.